Hallo, Derek hier. Wir hatten gerade eine neue Q&A-Session gehabt und ich dachte, es wäre interessant und informativ, so einen Ausschnitt davon zu zeigen. Hier ist das und viel Spaß dabei. So the first one is to do with possessive forms, and it's quite a good question. So it talks about the example being Gino, spelled G-I-N-O apostrophe S, makes the best pizza in town, sparked a question. That's good. Questions are always good. The name Gino is the place's owner's name. Yeah, this is true. So Gino is the owner, and so it's Gino's restaurant, i.e. the restaurant belonging to Gino. So we call it Gino's with the apostrophe before the S. It said, what if the place was a restaurant and the restaurant's name was Sausage? Cool example. If the sentence formed was sausages makes the best pizza in town, is this sentence still correct? Or doesn't it need the possessive form anymore and it can simply be called sausage only? Now, this is sort of quite a cool question because it gives us a chance to explain a technique that is quite useful in cases like this. So as we said, Gino's is sort of a short form for Gino's restaurant, or the restaurant belonging to Gino, and we use Gino's I-N-O apostrophe S to show the possessive nature. So if we'd have just said Gino makes the best pizza in town, we're talking about him, the person, not anything to do with his restaurant, just he personally makes the best pizza in town. But by saying Gino's, we're talking about his restaurant. So I mean, there's a huge overlap, of course, because if he's making the pizzas, then it's his restaurant and himself. But then maybe he has a day off and someone else also makes great pizza in his restaurant. So here's the question. Do we say sausages makes the best pizza or sausage makes the best pizza if that's the name of the restaurant? And this is a good trick that I usually do, is to kind of think of another simple example. So if you get stuck on something and you're really like, I can't get my head around this, then sort of take a step back, kind of make it simple and an example that you know the answer to. And then once you know the simple version, then kind of scale it up to the complicated version that you're trying to find the answer for. So in this case, we have sausages. Sausage makes the best pizza in town. Let's just cut it right down, just makes pizza. So, and think of an example we know. And instead of makes pizza, makes burger. So we say Burger King makes burger, or Burger Kings with apostrophe makes burger. And I think it's clear that we don't need the possessive form in this example. We don't say Burger Kings makes the best or makes burgers. We say Burger King makes burger. So now that we've got it clear that we don't need the possessive form when it's the name of the restaurant, then we can take this knowledge and information back to our question, and it should then tell us that sausage makes the best pizza in town and not sausages makes. No possessive form required. So again, that's a strange example of a restaurant called Sausage. I've never seen a restaurant of that name, but I'm sure there is one somewhere. Next one is to do with superlative adjectives. And we're saying here, the whole team played well and Paul played the best. And the question was, well, why can't we say Paul played the best among them all? And asked if this is also correct to sort of emphasize his achievement and maybe give some additional information. And the thing is, when we omit the group really just to keep it short. So we could, of course, say Paul played the best of them all, but it's kind of clear this is almost redundant information. So we just say Paul played the best, and we kind of know it's the best of the players in his team. So we don't necessarily need it. But having said that, there's a kind of an argument that you might try and get a bit theatrical and a bit sort of over the top to really emphasize the point and say, oh, but Paul played the best of them all. but it's a bit forced and unnatural. But if you wanted to get kind of theatrical about this, you could if you wanted to. The next one, there's a few here on prepositions, which are always challenging. So the questioner asks to explain more the difference between the boy threw something at someone and the boy, say, threw the ball to someone. And they both look very similar and sound very similar, and they kind of are, but it's the intention behind it that's different. So if you're playing a nice game with someone, you would throw the ball to them. So you throw the ball to them, they catch it. It's a nice, they throw the ball back to you, you catch it. It's kind of a nice game. If you're throwing the ball at someone, it's kind of no longer a nice game. You know, you're trying to kind of trying to hit them with it and hurt them, which is not a nice way to play. So if you're throwing the ball to someone, you're sort of cooperatively playing. If you throw the ball at someone, it's not really a sense of cooperation anymore. It's more a sort of an aggressive type of game. And the next one says, what's the difference? It said to put the picture above the bed. Why not over the bed? And again, we have this sort of above and over, which sound very similar. They're kind of not the same. So just zoom out a bit. These sort of sound insulation things, they are above me. Yeah, but they're not, because they're higher than me. Yeah, so they're above me. But the lights say are over me, because they are literally like covering, or it could be a sense of covering. So you would put blanket over somebody. So if you put a blanket over somebody, you're sort of covering them with the blanket. And if you put the blanket above them, there's sort of a gap between them and the blanket, or the blanket could even be up against the wall somewhere. So you've got to be sort of careful with above and over. I hope I've explained that okay. This thing here is above me. The lights are over me. And the last one kind of made me smile a bit. It said about an example of the wind blew the hat off his head. We're talking about off. And he says, well, why can't we write out of his head? Because out of means a movement, and then you finish outside of something. So if the wind blew the hat, away, then the hat is no longer sort of part out near his head, and so can't use out of. It's made a kind of a strange picture in my mind, because if something is blown off of his head, it started on his head. If something is blown out of somewhere, it started in somewhere. So you can, if someone's misbehaving in a restaurant, you can throw them out of the restaurant because they started in the restaurant. You wouldn't throw them off of the restaurant, because it means that you're taking them up on the roof and throwing them off the roof, which is something different. And similarly here, the wind blows the hat off his head. If it blew the wind out of his head, the hat had to be sort of inside his head, which doesn't sound very comfortable and not really the way hats were meant to be worn. So that's the difference. Again, you have to think of these things not just in terms of the end result, but sort of the start place as well kind of makes a difference. Ich hoffe, das war interessant und informativ für euch. Wer Interesse hat an dieser Mitgliedschaftszeit, bitte guckt mal die Link in der Beschreibung. Da sind Informationen, da ist viel dabei, viel Lernmaterial und viele interaktive Sachen. Ich würde dich gern da sehen. Bis nächste Mal. Tschüss.